Good morning, Adair County High School. Good morning, Adair County High School. There we go. Thank you all so much. Most of you, I recognize a lot of faces. Christian, me too, to Wilson College, but I'm really here. First of all, to thank the administration, Ms. Cunningham, for always hooking us up and allowing us to come out and speak. But at Lindsey this week, we've had breakfast with Fred, and as Austin pointed out, he feels a little cheated because there's no breakfast, and he's not going to get a chance to meet Fred today. Austin, and I'll make up for it next time, I promise. But breakfast with Fred, Leadership Institute, who's on our campus, and they're working with all of our students, and they're meeting classrooms and doing lots of different things. And I was lucky enough to have an opportunity to be asked to be kind of a friend and colleague to a gentleman by the name of Mr. Cunningham. Ron is with us today, and I spent the last day and a half with him, and I can tell you that as far as professional development and leadership, when I go around conferences and I meet with people, nothing that I've done could equal what the opportunity I've had the last day and a half to share ideas and thoughts and just personal development and just everything that he's been able to share with me. So after spending this day and a half with him and knowing that he was going to come out here and spend time with all of you all, I thought that this was really just a gift. So I hope that you are going to give a warm welcome to my new friend, now colleague, and new mentor, Mr. Ron Cunningham. Before we get started, he asked for us to share something, and so I've asked Ann to share something, and then we're going to turn the mic over to Ron.
All right, he's asked me to read from Romans chapter 12, verse 2. Some of you may be familiar with it. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect. I'll turn it over to Ron.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. How are you guys doing today? How are you guys doing today? All right, I'm here to share some things with you, and I'm going to get real. Is that okay? I'm going to get naked with you. Don't worry, I'm not going to take off my clothes, but I'm going to tell you about some of the failures that I've had in my life. I've had a rough life. Anybody here had a rough life? Nobody? Good. I'm glad to hear that. I've had, between kindergarten and 12th grade, I went to 13 different schools. I was known as Bad Little Ronnie. I got in trouble all the time. I'm from Pasadena, California. I grew up in Los Angeles, Pasadena, California, so in a big city as opposed to the lovely environment that you guys are growing up in here. It has really been a journey for me. And I share this with you because I want you to see that in each and every one of you, I see greatness. I really do. And the potential. You guys were created for something special. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I got gray hair, I got life experience, but quite frankly, my generation doesn't have a clue of what it takes to solve the problems of the world. But most of y'all already know that, right? You don't? But what you guys have a lot of energy. You have a lot of ideas. You have a lot of excitement. And that's what inspires me. I speak to youth all around the country, and so one of the things that I do in the high schools, there's 3 things that I would recommend you that I wish I would have known at an early age. A lot of my troubles and problems that I had were the result of me running around with very negative people. I left home at 15 years of age because I thought I knew everything. And I didn't. I got in a lot of trouble. Like I said, between kindergarten and 12th grade, 13 different schools. I kept moving around. And again, there was Bad Little Ronnie. I had people in my family tell me that I would never amount to anything. And you know what? They were right. But he that is in me is another story. I had a journey that was very painful, got me in a lot of trouble. But one of it was I was running around with a lot of people that were the wrong influence on me. Most of them are dead. They're in jail. Some of them have lost their minds to drugs. And I'm not here by anything of me. It's because of my mentors, the people that were pouring into me. And we're in a time now where we need each and every one of you more than ever before. Do you guys know that almost half of the world's population is under 30 years old? That's almost 3.5 billion people. Depending on how the United States goes with immigration, we could have as many as 100 million here in America. That's a lot of people. There's not enough of us, the educators, to be able to to resource those. You guys are the future. We really need you. One of the things that I learned about relationships, and I wish I would have known would have kept me a little trouble, is anytime somebody speaks to you or puts information in your head, your teachers, faculty, there's 3 things that you should be asking. You should be filtering everything by 3 questions. Number 1, does the person care for you? Austin, if I don't care for you, it's little chances that I'm going to be able to do anything well for you, right? So number 1, does he care for me? Number 2, does the person have anything that he could offer that could help me by way of life experience or something else? Number 3, can you trust them? None of you know me other than what Chris has shared with you. I'm going to share some things with you about my life, and I'm going to get real. I'm not proud of what I went through, but I just thank God that I went through it and I'm out on the other end. And after I share my little story, little talks, maybe you'll have an idea whether or not I care about you, whether or not I have anything that will offer you, or whether or not you can trust me. It's your decision. And this goes with relationships. And what I want to encourage you as you grow up, always be real with yourself. For a long time, I wasn't real with myself. Even as an adult, it took me a long time. And a couple of examples, I could say that I'm a little overweight. Well, that's not reality. I passed overweight 40 pounds ago. I'm fat. I could say that I'm halfway through, I'm at the midpoint of my life. That's not reality. At 62 years old, I don't know anybody that's 124. I'm more likely in the last quarter of my life. One of the things that has it is to the question, do I care about you? October the 6th, 2007, one of my 4 sons, Ryan, was killed in an auto accident at the age of 23. There's nothing I could do for Ryan. But a wise mentor, a guy named Fred Smith, had a saying, always find the good in a bad situation. Well, I've gone through a lot in my life, but nothing was more difficult than the loss of Ryan. And I said to myself, how do I find the good in a bad situation? This is one of my sons. I lost him. I was a mess. But through faith, I was able to get strong. And one of the things that I did is commit to making a difference in the lives of you and future generations. I have 6 grandchildren now, and I'm very concerned about the future. Very concerned. We need leaders. One of the things that I want to encourage you is not to be foolish like me. Thinking I knew everything, not listen to parents, not listen to people that cared about me. I thought I had all the answers, but I didn't know anything. Got in a lot of trouble. One of the things that I did is I dropped out of school. My family we finished cement in California. Anybody ever finished cement? Hard work. I dropped out of school in the 11th grade and did that for about 9 months and said, I'm going back to school to get me a job I could use my mind. Well, what I did is, bless you, I worked on a job after said this wasn't for me. I got an AA degree. I worked in construction. I worked in insurance for a while, went into real estate, didn't stay with that. But one of the things that I did is I had an uncle who believed in me. He just poured into me. I had 2 uncles, one on my mother's side and one on my father's side. They told me that I was destined for something special. Now, this is at the same time that a lot of other people are telling me that I wouldn't amount to anything. Who do you believe? What you believe is what matters. What you believe. You're designed for something special, each and every one of you. There's things that you do, there's talents that you have that nobody else in this room has. But you've got to develop that. One of the themes that I want to kind of encourage you is personal development. When it comes time to you're developing your mind, whose responsibility is that? Anybody? Pardon me? Yourself. Not your parents, not your situation, it's yourself. I waited till 45 till I really started developing. I had a very successful career with the city of LA as a building inspector. Very successful. At a real tough time in my life, I'm going to back up a little bit before I get to that real tough time. One of the things that I mentioned to you about my friends that I was running around with got me into drugs, alcohol, at age 14. So from 14 to 45, I was an alcoholic. I was a functional one. Am I proud of that? No, not at all. But it was a reality. I coached basketball. I didn't get drunk or high around the kids that I work with, but I had a problem. And I came to a point in my life where I needed to get it together. I couldn't do it on my own. So I prayed that this be taken from me. Just like that it was. And I made a promise to God that if he took it from me, I was his forever. And little did I know how events would unfold in my life that would have me to where I am now, where my focus is nothing but the youth. I was very self-centered. Drugs and alcohols did that to you. After a 28-year relationship, and I decided that I'm going to get my life together, my wife tells me she's leaving me. I'm like, leaving me? Are you kidding? No woman could leave me. Well, it happened. And I was an emotional wreck. It was the hardest thing that I had. It was the hardest thing that I dealt with up until Ryan at that point. I had to learn how to function without drugs and alcohol. I had to learn how to function without the woman that I loved for 28 years. I could be walking around and all of a sudden I'm crying. What is this? Tears from me? It's reality. I was hurt. And I see the damage that my alcohol and drug use had caused on other relationships. And I'm in the process of restoring some of those now. Well, I was a building inspector, as I shared with you, and one of the things that I was doing, I had some good skills. I wasn't all bad. I wasn't a rotten person. But I had some areas that I was really, really lacking in, and one of them, the main one, was relationships. I didn't realize the importance of relationships. I had a point where I got exposed to some of the work of Dr. John Maxwell. Anybody ever heard of John Maxwell? He's a leadership expert. I would encourage you to read some of his books. One of them that he has now is called Intentional Living, and the whole focus is on living a life of significance, and that's what I'm about now. Dr. Maxwell had a mentor by the name of Fred Smith. I never personally met Fred Smith, but I had about half a dozen conversations with him, and he poured into my life over the last 13 months. I went to his memorial service. And little did I know I was being prepared for what 1 month later was, when Ryan passed, the toughest thing for me. Fred had a couple of sayings where Fred said we have to change everything but the gospel. I believe in that. We're in an area where things really, really change fast. You guys are the largest generation that's ever existed. You don't need adults for information. What you need us for is to help you process the information. Like I said, I'm not going to here to tell you what you need to do because I don't know. My life was a mess. I got exposed to personal development through Fred's material, through John Maxwell's material. Fred really, his Breakfast with Fred, some of the wisdom that he shared was just amazing. Genuine help is always mutual. He gave a lot of little one-line nuggets. If I do something for you, if it's genuine, something's going to come back to me. But how does the world? We heard the scriptures, don't be conformed to the world. The world teaches us that what's in it for me kind of a thing. That's not important. I'm here sharing my ugliness of my life because hopefully it could prevent one of you from doing something. I don't want anybody to feel the pain that I've gone through. I don't want anybody to do that. Your mind is your greatest gift that you have. What I encourage you to do is develop it. And as Cole said, it's your responsibility to develop it, nobody else's. Not your parents, not your teachers, or anybody else's. It's a decision you have to make. One of the things that I've gone through, I share with you some of my challenges. I've gone through a bout with cancer. I'm a cancer survivor. I've lost family, lost a fortune, lost my house. All of that in reality was the best thing for me, put me back on the right track. I had a 92-year uncle who I shared with you was a mentor of mine. He taught me everything. He poured into me. Well, the last 4.5 years of his life, I had to take care of him. And it's something that I learned from Fred. I didn't have to, I got to. And it was a privilege to take care of somebody who took care of me. When I was born, he changed my diapers. When he got the last part of his age, his life, I had to change him. But it was a pleasure to do something for somebody that's helped me get to where I am, that always believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. One of the things that he taught me is look out for other people than yourself. I shared with you my alcohol and drugs because that makes you very self-centered and not a nice person. Well, I got beyond that. I was recruited from the Department of Building and Safety in LA to go to the housing department to help develop a program called the Systematic Code Enforcement Program. What it was the largest undertaking of its kind. I was an architect of that program. Started out with 12 employees, and when I left in 2013, when I retired, it now has 207 employees. I believe they filled the vacancy, so about 225 now. It was a $9 million program. Some of the ideas that I was able to use by using Fred's materials and other leadership principles that I learned, took it to a $42 million program. In 2005, we won Harvard's Innovations in Government Award. That's like the Academy Awards of government. We don't take the money from the general fund. And what it was a program where we had to go in and inspect the rental units. There's 780,000 rental units in the city of LA. We had to go into every one of them. The program was totally underfunded. The mayor and the city council were to pull the plug. And I'm sharing this not to impress you, but to impress upon you the transformation that can take place in your lives if you really work to develop your mind and you grow your faith. Well, after the success of that, I promoted to a principal inspector, which is a step below the chief. When I retired, I was on the chief list. In 2005, one of the things that they did, the city of LA, as you know, in California, were really prone to earthquake. So we had Katrina. The mayor and others started asking, well, what are we going to do if we have to relocate or shelter 500,000 people? The current capacity of the city was 30,000 people. You know what the city did? The housing department that I work for? They says, Cunningham, why don't you work on that and figure that out? So for the last 8 years, I spent working in emergency management planning. I learned a lot of things there. It stretched. And again, I've been working over my head, and it's a thing where if you do anything that you have the ability to do on your own, it's too small. You got to look for something far beyond you. One of the things that my uncle, before he passed away, he talked me into going back to school. So at 56, I went back to school, went back and got my bachelor's. Just last year, I finished my master's degree. And I'm not to impress you, to impress upon you, be smart. Don't wait. I had a 35-year layoff from school. You're in the best place you can be. Educate your brain. Educate your mind. It's going to take care of you, your family, and everything you can do. And when I say you have unlimited potential, if a knucklehead like me could be involved in the programs that I was involved, that gave me confidence. This thing with the youth, I mentor youth all around the world. And one of the things that I do now every day is I can't do anything for Ryan, but what I do that I pray that his memory will allow me to use other people. Nothing's going to happen with his memory unless I use it. That's why I'm here to share with you. I do genuinely care for you. There's nothing more important than you. Some people say, why would you go back to school at the age when you're retiring? Well, school gives options. If I had gone through and completed some of this education, I might have been a director or even no telling of a department instead of the chief. I had success, but it gives me options. I believe in it. It was a challenge going back to school after 35 years because all of a sudden I find that my instructors were a lot younger than me. I didn't mention that I teach building construction at Pasadena City College for the last 15 years. I've had a lot of other successes, and again, I'm not patting my back. I'm talking about what the potential you have if you do everything to develop your mind. I spend time every single day in personal development. There's nothing more important. If I fail to keep developing, and I'm talking to students, young, bright minds like yourself, I'm going to come up on a point where I'm not going to be able to give you anything. Oh, he's saying the same old thing over and over again. I'm concerned about the problems. I'm concerned that my generation doesn't have the solutions. But I'm very, very inspired because when I look in each of your eyes, I see nothing but potential. And again, the world will take you in a different way. The world will take you in a totally different way. And if you start asking why, what happens to me? One of the things, all of the adversity in my life came after I decided to turn my life around. All of my challenges. But you know what? I'm stronger than ever before. One of the things that a lot of us parents have done that as I look back and do research, we wanted to remove the element of adversity for your lives. We want to make things better for you. We want to make things easier for you. That's not good because we grow in adversity. What happens if you take a butterfly and try to help it out of a cocoon? What do you do? What happens to the butterfly? What happens? Anybody? Huh? You kill it. You cripple it. And to a certain extent, that's what we've done. You don't need us for information, but we need to process it. One of the things that I would like to put on your minds is that to think about what we need is a culture of generational collaboration where we're working together. You communicate differently. I'm here. I work with youth because I want to find out how we can connect. How can we work together? I'm not going to say you need to do this, you need to do that. I'm here to say, how can I help you? I want to get that dialogue going at all levels. One of the things that I learned in emergency management that after there's a national disaster, the president declares a declaration, that's when all of the resources come in. That's when all of the resources are brought in to help recover. Maybe the National Guard, maybe the federal government will come in, the National Guard. It may be a lot of different groups that come in. One of the things that as I close, I'd like you to really think about, this is something that I got from Fred. Fred says that responsibility exceeds rights. You guys can make a difference. You guys and ladies will make a difference in this world. Please keep in mind that thing about rights and responsibilities. We become a nation and a world that's so focused on rights that we can't even communicate. What's your name, ma'am? Kathleen? Caitlin? Okay, Kathleen, if you and I are standing on rights and we're focused on rights, and sooner or later we're going to clash because you're perceiving a right you have, I'm perceiving a right that I have, and we're not going to clash. We're going to clash, and we're not going to get together. Sometimes our rights get to a point where we shut down and don't even want to communicate. What I encourage you to give some thought to, some serious thought, and talk amongst yourself, are what would it be like if we focused on our responsibilities? Not rights, our responsibilities. Fred used to say that rights clash. Responsibility helps us form a bond. Does that make sense? What is our responsibilities? What is the responsibility of my generation to serve you? How can you help? You guys are going to be the catalyst because you've got to reach up to the older generations, but also, how many of you have younger brothers and sisters? You're leaders. They're looking at everything you do. You have the opportunity to help shape their future. And with that, I just thank you for the opportunity. I hope that at some point you'll say this fat old man came to say a few things that made some sense, and I hope you'll take it to heart, but you are the future, and personal development there's nothing more important than personal development. It'll take you beyond anything you could dream or imagine. Thank you for your time.
In closing, I just want to say thank you again for having us out here. I want to thank you all again for allowing us the opportunity to come out. And I don't want to miss this chance at what we call an opportunity. Having Ron with us today to share this message, we all remember, all of us remember, sitting in bleachers, sitting in classrooms, and listening to messages over and over again. I look at your faces, and so many of you I know because I've sat in front of you, I've stood in front of you, we've talked before. But really what Ron has shared with you today is an opportunity and what we talked about with options. We're just wanting to share with you a chance to do something great, for yourself. And I shared this with them, I've shared this with many of you before. The positive thinking plus positive action equals the realization of your full human potential. And we want every one of you, every one of these people, all the teachers, all the educators in this building, your families, your church leaders, the community, we want to see each and every one of you reach your full potential. Having someone like Ron, having the other guests that come and speak in your classroom all the time is an opportunity. It provides you options, it gives you choices, and it lets you take accountability for who you want to be when you grow up and how you want to become a leader. Because one day, one of you are going to serve one of those goals. One day, one of you are going to stand, just like Ron did today, in front of a group of people and share your life story and their leadership and help them. You're going to stand here and you're going to help the next generation. We're counting on every single person in this room. I'm trying to make eye contact with every single one of you. We're counting on you to lead us. And we have to make that connection, and that's why we want to present these opportunities to you. So thank you so much. Can you please again give my good friend Ron a round of applause? Thank you all so much.